Welcome back to the Dream Woman podcast, where we talk all things love and dating and relationships and basically having next level conversations for humanity, everything rooted in love and intelligence and heart. I'm your host, Taylor Carr.
I'm Katelin Power.
I'm Katherine Wehler.
And we are so excited to be joining you at Dream X Studios in Newport Beach today. And I'm so excited about today's conversation because we're talking about boss babes, and we're talking about why women who are successful and ambitious have such a hard time in love and in relationships, especially in this modern world. But before we dive into that, with my beautiful co-hosts, do you guys want to tell everyone what you do? Katelin, we'll start with you.
I would love to. I'm Katelin Power. I'm a certified clinical hypnotherapist and trained intuitive.
And I am Katherine Wehler. I'm a professional astrologer. I've been studying it for over 20 years and a new paradigm business and soul coach.
And of course, I teach dating, love, relationships, and feminine energy. We have a cool conversation today, you guys, and we have a couple little nuances that we're going to throw in here. But I would love to just hear your perspectives of kind of what's going on with the modern ambitious woman and love these days. Katherine, let's start with you.
It's always start. I can start. I'll start. I feel like where we are struggling as women is we went through the boss babe phenomenon. Boss babe. I can do anything a man can do, and I can do it better a lot of the time. And now we are realizing that also we swung to the other side of the pendulum, and that's not helpful. Now we're trying to swing back, soft girl, all the things. We want to get balanced. So that's where I see the most struggle with my clients, for sure.
Nice. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I see it as women have developed a sort of hyper independence that not only affects their romantic relationships, but also even their friendships or their family relationships. And so we're coming back to a space, like you were saying, where we can kind of soften, where we can trust other people to take care of us or to support us, to love us again, and not just rely on ourselves.
That was beautiful.
That was really beautiful. Yeah, I think that there is this incredible pendulum swing that we've done. Everything that we've done for women's rights and female empowerment is incredibly important and necessary. Yeah. But we did pendulum swing into the space of I need nothing, right? And when we need nothing, then we don't leave space for other people to come into our lives. And what's funny is that men and the masculine actually, at their level of evolution at this time, like need to feel needed. And that's not to say that that will always be the case, but I think we've evolved a little bit faster than our beautiful male counterparts. And when they feel like they're not needed, they come in and they start to break things so that they will feel needed more. And that's why we're having this big kind of like gap in between us, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and even men really, really resonate with the word need. And that's something with manifestation, creation, all the things. You don't want to have to need anything because there's a lack. But when speaking with men, they really understand you better when you say, I need this, because they go, oh, I didn't realize that was a need. I didn't understand before. That's their language. So seeing that, like, yeah, I do need you. And that shows them, or I need you to do this. This is why it's important. I need you to do this because it makes me feel safer. They go, oh, incredible. Happy to do that for you.
Yeah. And always happy to do it for us.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I absolutely resonate with that. I think one thing that women really need right now is emotionally intelligent partners. I think we're craving a depth that maybe we didn't have the capability or the opportunity to crave before because we were so focused on like financial dependence, right? It's only been since the 1970s that women can have credit cards, right?
Isn't that wild? Like that was not long ago.
Crazy to me.
Crazy.
Literally like my mother's lifetime. That's insane. So I think that even just what we're looking for within partnerships, even the fact that we're living so much longer, right? We have access to so much more education, even about things like attachment styles. And, you know, we have this connectivity where we can communicate with one another. We can listen to podcasts. We can learn, evolve, grow, be better. I think that women are craving men who are doing the same thing, just in a masculine way. And that's sort of where men are struggling because they don't quite have the tools yet or know how to do that on that mass level.
That was so interesting what you said about rushing, where I was thinking that about we used to rush so much. We are living longer. And so now what used to be normal for our parents and our grandparents of you get married this time, you have a family if you want one this time, we don't have to, it's not a race and a rush anymore. And we actually get to pick our best match, not just the person that was there when it was time to do those things, which is so powerful. And we need to be in that feminine energy in order to attract that, because if you are I'm this age, that's very masculine. And now we have the time, there's all the science behind us. We can have children at later ages than we ever have been able to before in a healthy way. And so now we have that time, the space, the spaciousness to be our feminine queen and not have to do. Like, I remember I used to play the Barbie game all the time with my mom and grandma and stuff. I don't know if you've ever played that. It's epic. But the thing of the game is you have to get a date for prom. You have to have your prom dress. And then you have to have like be in a club or something like at the high school or something. And it's like, that's very much what the goals were. Check, like checking the boxes for our moms and our grandmas and those generations. And now we're seeing that like we get to actually really focus on ourselves first to ensure that we have the best match. And for everything else that we are in our soul pulled careers, it's not race because time is ticking.
We don't have to settle.
Yes. Yeah.
This conversation, it brings me a lot of joy, because this is part of the reason I wanted to do this project to begin with, is this exact conversation right here, because I don't think that I have the answers. I don't think that you guys have the answers. I don't think that anybody does, but I think that this is the next evolution of conversation that we get to have in the world, because where's the balance between I need nothing, I receive everything, but also where the men are, also where the women are, also we don't have to settle, but are they coming with us on this journey? And we really want them to. How do we call them forward, which we will get into later. I don't think that anyone has the answer, but I am curious about what this means for everybody, and I love curious. But I love where this conversation is even going already, because again, like I try to look at everything from a very macro view of like, okay, what's actually going on in the world, and then I start to get into the micro. I start to dissect the micro, and watching the women evolve in such beautiful ways, and they're a yes to personal development, and they're a yes to becoming these incredible women in the world. But also there's a pendulum swing in that too, where nobody can fit into our lives. We don't have space for anybody. And I know what that feels like, because, and I'll say this, like I was never single for more than 6 months in my 20s, or not, like maybe 9 months max, but I'm a Libra, like I'm a lover girl. I'm like, yes, I love love. And after
I love
my
it.
last,
We're the complete opposite on that.
I know, but after my last relationship ended, I really spent 2 years intentionally alone and building my business, working on myself, working on my career without a man in my life. It's addicting. It's addicting when you are not needed by anybody. And for me, I don't have children, and maybe that is a bridge I cross one day. Maybe it's not. I'm not sure yet, but I can see why it gets so comfortable to be on your own, and yet I still felt that deep longing in the back of my heart that was like, I want love, I want partnership, even though the rest of me was a no. And so I think a lot of our boss babes are feeling this. A lot of our women who are like, we're go-getters, but how could I settle? And it's a risk to just bring anybody into our lives. But I still have that deep yearning and that deep longing. And this is where I want to see this conversation go. What do you say? What say ye about this?
What say ye? I say. I also want to point out that, again, the pendulum on the other side, chemistry is highly addictive, like one of the most addictive things in the world. So seeing, are you just addicted to chemistry? Like you were saying, I was in the pattern of always not being single, like always having a partner. That is addictive. That is the pattern that you're in. So you're going, oh, why am I trying to get this person? Is it because I actually am desiring my match right now, or am I even like ready for my match? Which probably not if you're in that cycle of just the next guy, and seeing like, again, that pendulum. So chemistry is addictive. And when you see, oh, I actually don't need anyone, I could be so happy, that's addictive too. So if you want to have that high consciousness match in the middle, like that soulmate situation, seeing where am I on that pendulum and where can I kind of like swing back the other way and get balanced.
100%. And I think women, like I was saying before, are just craving like high quality, period, right? Like, again, we don't have to settle, so we don't want to, right? So we're craving that in our career, in our relationships. But I think that love can be a little bit more difficult because there are more components, right? Like, this is a partner. This is not just a friend. This is not just a colleague, right? You can change your career. You can change up your friendships, right? You get to have multiple friendships. But for most people, they're monogamous. And so they just want that one person. And then you throw in all of the conditioning that comes from like our media about what love looks like and what that day-to-day reality is. And then I think you just get a bunch of really confused adults who are kind of stuck in that place of, I don't even really know how to move forward in like a real, tangible, you know, realistic sort of way.
And we talked about this. I remember we were at the beach house and you were saying that you were talking with one of your male clients, I believe, and he wants that so bad too, but like so many men have kind of given up, if you will, in the way, like everyone's just at home. Like everyone's at home.
Everyone is at home.
Everyone's at home. Like you can't meet anyone because everyone's at home. Like those high quality men. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or working from home.
Or working from home. Combining both.
That's yeah. My clients always ask me like, where are the good men? I'm like, yo, they're at home, or they're at
home,
work, or you and
or
I
they're
talk
at
about this. They're with their moms.
Families.
They're Zooming on Sundays with their family, you know, on the East Coast. Or
They're grocery shopping.
They're grocery shopping, but they're not really at the club, and they're not really at the bar, and they don't really have time for that.
Maybe
and
for
they're
a bachelor party.
And they're also, but they're also not really on dating apps either. Like maybe they have a profile, but they're not super active on it because they don't care, because giving all of that energy, I think men who are of high quality know that they don't want to deplete their energy with a ton of random women. That doesn't feel good to them
they have
either.
the worst photos on the dating app.
I know, that's how I know it's a good profile.
Okay, I've never been out with a fish,
It's not
guys,
it's not the
so
fish.
I can't talk to the fish. But like, I even give like my guy friends shit about this because I'm just like, okay, why would you select that one though? Like, I know you have better photos.
Yeah.
And they were so sweet. They're like, oh, but it shows off my personality.
You're like, in what way?
No, but I don't want to take that from them. Actually, like I don't want to go in and
that's very sweet though.
Yeah,
that they want to lead with their personality.
I don't want to update those profiles.
Not like their hotness, you know?
And I work with dating apps with my clients a lot of times, and they'll be like blurry profile photos and stuff. I'm like, I think you should match with him, and they're like, why? I'm like, I just have a feeling because the guys who have like all the selfies and all the this and the mirrors, you know,
the fish,
they're holding the fish. Look what I caught.
Okay, that I did get intel because again, I have these great guy friends.
Crack the code.
And so I was like, oh my God, why are there so many fucking fish pictures? Like specifically fish. He goes, well, I think he's just showing what he likes to do. Like he's just showing his hobbies. He's like, I wouldn't know because I'm not a fish person.
Right. But what's weird is I have a lot of guy friends that are incredible. Love them. And none of them fish. They all golf. I don't know.
But do they have golf pictures?
No. That's what I don't get. So it's like if it's just showing
Maybe
what you want to do.
Maybe it's just the psychology of the fish. Like I caught something. I'm like a rugged wild man, and that's my pleasure.
Maybe it's that whole Yellowstone craze. But I feel like someone told them you put a picture with a fish. Like I don't understand.
I know. Who are these people? I need to know who started.
They were led astray.
I need to know who started the fish craze.
We need to know. Please tell us.
Maybe it's a metaphor of like I'm trying to
I'm
catch
fishing. I'm hunting.
I'm fishing for the woman. I'm catching the.
I'm hunting.
Or maybe it's there's always more fish in the sea, and it's me. I'm the next fit. Like you know.
According to the men, it's just that's what they like to do, and so they're showing their hobby.
Well.
We've solved the world's problems today.
If anybody has answers, please.
If anyone has questions, reach out.
Please DM us.
But yeah, so I think I don't even know how we got into the fish.
Sorry.
We were talking about something completely other. Completely lost where we were headed with that.
She's just gonna have to keep us back on track the whole time.
You were talking about profiles that are blurry, and you'll tell your clients like,
more
"Oh,
authentic.
I have a good feeling about that one."
Yeah, and in my experience, because I'm very open about the fact that when I was collecting all of my data for the work that I do, I went on a lot of dates with a lot of different types of guys, and I tried on all the different feminine embodiment tactics and tools to see what men would respond to, and I'd ask questions, and I also did the thing where was leaned in and very masculine, and I would move towards them, and I would text them first, and I would drive to them, and I collected the data from the results that I got, just honest, truthful data. And I found that the men that I went to, the men I drove to, the men I was like texting them first and trying to keep the plans going, were absolutely terrible to me. Actually, like they were trying to ghost me, and I kept like, you know, pulling them back in. And I found that the men that I was very leaned back, very sweet, very kind, but I let them pursue me, were so much kinder, more romantic, more consistent, more interested. And I was detached in the whole process because I was, you know, collecting data, meeting great people, and open. If one of them was going to be the guy, I was open to that. And they weren't. But I had this one date with this guy once, and he had a terrible profile on Hinge, and like one photo of him that looked like maybe it was from 2010 with some friends. And then the rest were like the beach, They were just the beach. And
oh, that's a winner.
You know? And I was like, I just feel like something's here. He seems kind of cute in his profile. And we met up, and he was so good looking. Like, this was a hot man taking me to an incredible steakhouse in LA and then to a play. And I was trying on all my different tactics of ways of being. And with him, I really wanted to be like extremely authentic, to the point of a little bit of a pain in the ass, because I think I kind of am, and I'm okay with that. And so I don't remember what he said, but I said, oh my gosh, I'm the worst. I'm literally so high maintenance. I'm like the hardest person to please. And he goes, you know yourself so well, and you are so confident. I really love that about you. And next thing I knew, every door, every chair was pulled. Everything was like suddenly perfect. And he taught me a lot, actually. And he walked me out to the car, and he was like, so what is this? Because I really like you, and I could see myself pursuing you, but I'm not going to waste time if you don't see something with me, and I would like to know what your intention is. And he was like so lovely and so forward about it. And I just knew it wasn't going to be my person, and I didn't want to lead him on past, you know, we did 2 dates. But I learned a lot in that, where men really appreciate when you're honest about who you are, even if it's the like pain pointy stuff, whereas women were taught like, don't be too much, don't be a pain in the ass, be
we're
nice.
Wired to please.
We are. And I think that this is a really good point for even like our boss babes out there, where I think they're hyper masculine in the way that they can do everything, and they can set up the dates, and they can set up everything and make it work, and they can pull men along behind them, and the men will come because there's food and there's sex and there's companionship.
There's food.
They're like, okay, like I get sex and I get a companion. They'll come. But I think that they also show up on these dates auditioning, and they also show up on these dates like, see how I'm the perfect woman, and they lead with their success. They lead with what they've created, and that's not actually what makes a man fall in love, unless it's a man who wants a woman who's done all things and accomplished everything so that he can ride her coattails. That's not the relationship that these women want. They want men who will out-masculine them. They want men who will be stronger than them, but they have it completely backwards, where they're auditioning like a good little, like, delicate girl on the date, but then also setting things up and doing everything in their action. That's why they don't like their results.
And that's confusing for men too, and also confusing for the women, because they're like, wait, I want the masculine, but you're showing up like you said, delicate, but then talking about all your accomplishments of like what you would be looking for in a man. You're looking for the strength that a man can protect, provide. So you're saying, oh, I have these accomplishments in my workplace, I do this, and I have all these great things going on, and that's not what the man is looking for in
what
you.
The men are looking for.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's where it gets confusing, I think, too, because you're wanting masculine, but then you're being masculine, and you're like, wait, what happened? But that's
and also how exhausting, right? How exhausting, not only to have to put in that effort for someone who maybe is sort of lukewarm about you, but also just like to have to be something that you're not, right? Or to have to be something that you ultimately do not want to be in a relationship.
I think what these women don't totally understand, because when you're brought up in the era that we've all been brought up in, which is the masculine model of success is how you thrive. So we get results when we do the thing, we take the action, we move it forward. I'm a woman of the modern day. I can go get what I want. And so when we learn that, we really disconnect from our feeling and our heart space. And what I have learned from all these amazing men that I've been in a relationship with and in contact with is that they care more about how I make them feel than what I do and what I say. I can sit there all day and say, I'm a successful business owner and this, and I have this many on Instagram, and I make this much money, and I have this many clients. That doesn't work. what they care about is how warm they feel with you, how seen they feel with you,
and how authentic you
how
are.
authentic
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah.
But this leads me to the next conversation, which is, okay, great. We can do all the work in the world and we can learn these things and we can drop into our heart and make men feel things and really charm them and just be the ultimate feminine goddess. But what are the men doing to meet us here?
Yeah.
Does anyone have any answers?
And you mean in dating, like how are they meeting us here? Are they doing the work on their side?
Yeah, I mean, I think women have been reading Cosmo for 20 years trying to figure out what men want. And I find that men are not reading the magazines to figure out what women want. They read the magazines to figure out how to make more money, get the car, become more successful, be a better performer, get better abs and all of that, but they're not forming the relationship skills. And though I don't think it's totally women's jobs to teach them this, at the same time I think about all the kings who had priestesses in their temples to guide them forward. And so if I were a priestess of all of these kings' temples right now, which maybe I am, maybe we are, what is it that I'd want to say to them, and how would we want to call them forward to focus on these skills too? If you want to be a high performer, have a great woman in your life. If you want to make more money, have a great woman in your life. And it's not get the money and get the car and then you'll get the woman, because I think a lot of men are taught that their success and the things that they create are what make them worthy of love. But unfortunately, their success and the money and all the things that they create attract a very specific type of woman. And that type of woman is looking for that type of man, and they are in their own self-fulfilling prophecy of we use each other. And that's not heart-centered love. That's not a heart-centered connection.
First off, I think that there are men out there doing the work. There's not enough maybe. And that would be amazing if they are doing the work. But I do know, I have evidence that there are, because especially I've had dating experts on my podcast, and I've had the men that were following them come into my DMs saying, I love her work. This was an amazing conversation. Like I got a lot from this.
Absolutely.
So I know that they are
so
out
sweet.
there.
And I have them in my DMs
Yes.
too.
So we know that they're out there.
Yes.
Of course, it's incredible when more men are stepping up and doing the work, because I would never date someone that is like, this is just I have dated someone. And because of that lesson,
you would never
because
date
of that
someone,
lesson,
yes.
I knew from that relationship, that was like the biggest lesson I learned from that one is I will never date a man again that is saying basically this is how I am. Like I'm pointing out something that is not working for me, and they say that's just how I am, and I'm like, well, that doesn't work for me, because every day, like we mentioned in episode 1, I'm getting hotter, richer, and more fun every day. So what are you doing? So that to me is just something that needs to be communicated from the beginning, that I am looking for someone that is interested in their growth. Like not just this is who I am. Of course, it's just everyone, we're supposed to, that's literally why we're here. Our souls chose to come into this human experience to grow. So if you're not interested in growing, then that's just not going to work for me. And I think that's something that needs to be communicated in the beginning. But I do think that there are men out there doing it and wanting more, like it just not as available. But I do know that even influencers that are self-development influencers that are male, like they do really well. They pop off the second they get on TikTok and stuff, because there are men out there that are trying to learn from other men. They just don't necessarily know where to find it.
Yeah, that's so good. So again, I'm kind of the outlier here.
but which is why you're here, because I like different perspectives.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you guys said, 100%. I encounter different kinds of men. I encounter men who need to really tap into what they want for themselves, because they're kind of just the good guy, you know, maybe comes from a good family, has gone to therapy, you know, has done all the things, right? But what they're really struggling with is being clear on, what do I authentically want besides what my society has told me to want, right? These are men who, I don't know why. I mean, I do know why. It's my Capricorn 7th house. I know exactly why. I'm not sure why I said that. It's my Capricorn 7th house, and it's my Venus in the 10th house. I just attract a lot of men, not only, you know, for me to date, but also as friends, as colleagues, as clients who, again, have just done all the things. And where they're really struggling is in that heart-centered connection place. And like I said, it really comes from that place where they're having trouble trusting themselves, right? They're having trouble trusting this is what I authentically want, not just what I've been told I'm supposed to want, you know? So it's a similar journey. I feel like it's the opposite side of the coin, right? A lot of men, I would say the good majority, are in the camp where they're sort of, you know, working on the career, or they're getting to that place where they can show up and they can plan the date and they can get the flowers and everything. The men in my world, they've got that on lock. That's never been the issue. What they need help with is emotional intimacy. That is terrifying to them. So they'll choose the woman, and Taylor, you know, knows, right? They'll choose the woman who is the quote unquote dream girl, right? And ticks all the boxes, and then feel like there's no emotional fulfillment there, right? Like their little boy doesn't feel safe. Their little inner child doesn't feel safe to like what he likes and to ask for what he wants, right? So I think it's both, right? We're always saying that it's that beautiful frequency match connection and all of the work and self-discovery and play that goes into finding that for ourselves. And then it's also these more tangible things of how do you show up on the date, right? Like, what is it that you are desiring? What is it that you are asking for and holding a standard to?
Yeah, I love that.
I love that too. I think it's not so different than, you know, men being told that they have to be one thing to have the thing.
Yeah.
And then learning that they want to be something different, or figuring out what that means to them. I think it's kind of the same.
Yeah.
One of the topics that my clients really, really love, and I know that you guys love this topic too, is calling men forward. And this is something that I've been getting a little bit more loud about because I've just seen now so many results in my business and how this works. And the root of calling men forward, in my opinion, is getting rid of all of these notions of, oh, he's just a guy, that's what men do. Oh, he's just just let him get away with it. He's just, oh, men cheat. Oh, boys will be boys. All of that stuff.
Yeah, fuck that bullshit.
I know. All of that stuff, in my opinion, is deeply disrespectful to men and the masculine as a whole, because that means that we don't respect them enough to think that they can do better. So then we actually give them permission to stay in their little boys.
It's like they're not even capable of that, like thinking that they're like these like subpar beings, you know?
So it's really removing this idea that men aren't capable and that they just can get away with all these things because they're just guys. I think that that's the worst thing that we can do to men, and actually holding them to a higher standard because we believe in them, not because we think that they're little boys who just do this and they're just these violent beings. I don't necessarily agree. Maybe there's the primal version of us that requires attention. It gets to have attention, but we're also human beings who are evolving consistently over time. We aren't cavemen. We aren't animals. We aren't like all of that. Like I said, it gets attention, but it doesn't get all of the attention. So when we call men forward, it's, I believe in you. I think that men are capable of so much. So why am I going to sit here and let you get away with being this lower frequency version of you with me in my company? Because I think that women are directly related to, not the only thing, but directly related to why the men aren't growing at the rate that we are, because we let them stay where they are.
Yeah, and I find men are really honorable, and that's the problem. And where we're seeing it is like they just don't care. They just aren't going to do X, Y, and Z for me. They just don't care. But the thing is,
they do care.
They do care, but they actually wait until they feel safe enough with you to care, because caring is the scariest thing that a man can ever do.
Yeah.
So they're like, if I'm going to care, which means I'm going to take on this role of the protector, the provider, all the things, I'm going to be checking in with you. Like, they don't really do things half-ass. If they're really wanting that commitment and that partnership, then they're going to be like, is this woman safe for me to enter into this? And that takes longer. Like, women are like, I'm in, let's go. And they're like, wait, I don't know if I'm safe here to give you all this, because I am so honorable and I want to be that man for you. So they have to feel safe enough to do it.
And that's why we can't pull men along behind us in dating, because they're still trying to figure out if they're all in and they can be all in with us. And if we force them into relationship because we're badass, powerful women who can just do it, they're not all in. They'll do it. They'll say, but it keeps them in their little boy. It keeps them in the like, okay, I guess I'm just here doing this relationship now. This is why there's such an interesting language on the internet, which is like the masculine is meant to lead. And like, yes, okay, let's talk about what that actually means, because women can lead themselves, to be clear. We're not like these like little weak beings who can't be trusted with ourselves, which is where some of the language goes. But men actually do have to lead relationships forward, not the woman. They have to lead the relationship forward. If a man's not leading the relationship forward, he doesn't honor it as much, he does not respect it as much, and he's not going to take as good of care of it. Like you said, it's a deep thing for them. I tell my clients all the time, I'm like, no, we meet a guy and we're like, I met a guy, oh my God. Men meet a woman, they're like, oh shit, I met a woman. Oh fuck. And their friends
scared.
are like, bro, are you okay, bro?
God,
and
I'm such a guy.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, I like someone.
Oh God. Because it's such a deeply serious commitment to them. Like, we can just kind of like, oh my God, and he's going to do this and da da da.
Yes.
But we should be a little bit more discerning too, because a woman choosing a relationship with a man who isn't all in with her, having a child with a man who isn't all in on it, like that is the equivalent of being hit by a meteor, which was my dream last night, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're still with us today.
In my dream, lots of meteors.
God.
It was really
Wow.
creepy.
How interesting.
Maybe it knew you were going to talk about this today.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
So this conversation is so great, you know, like it's so lovely because this isn't how people are talking about this topic on the internet. And with
it's very
the amount,
black and white.
it's so black and white, and the amount of access we have to all this information, again, that's desensitizing us, and it's making us extremely rigid with how we show up in the world. We're dehumanizing each other, and we're assuming that men can't do things. And I think the next level of our reality is where men can do things, and men get to do things, and they get to do things that are right for them, and we get to lean back and witness what's right for us.
Yeah. And I think if a man isn't caring yet and you're like, why isn't he caring? Da, 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 it doesn't mean that he's never going to care. Again, are you making him feel safe enough to care? If he's putting all of his marbles in one spot, he needs to feel safe enough to do so. And you can see even with friendships, like this is male friendships as well, like they're not going to invest in you and be your friend and care for you if they feel like you're going to be like, just, you're not going to be in their life 6 months from now. So women will be like, even like intuitively, I've met friends that I know from my intuition that we are going to be good friends. So I'm already like, yeah, but we're great friends. And they don't know that yet, which is my own thing. Yeah, I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, we are going to be best friends. And that can be difficult for me because I'm an intuitive. And so I'm like, wait, but don't you see this? And so it's confusing for me. And they will care. They're just not there yet because they don't know that that we're still going to be here together 6 months, a year, 2 years down the line. But you can see the difference, and I've seen this with my male friends that like they didn't care before, and that's fine. They just were like, I enjoy being with Katelin. Like, you know, we have fun, blah blah blah, and great. But then you see the difference after like a year, after 2 years, where it's like they are getting irritated if someone is like talking about you in the bar. Like, oh, that girl is so hot, and da 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 da. They're like protector, you know, because they care now. So you can see the shift, and it doesn't mean that they never will care. Women usually were like a little ahead of the game, but again, it's because he's seeing, am I safe with her? And if you're going, well, he doesn't care, so then I'm gonna ghost him or silent treatment, hurt him, like hit him where it hurts, then he's never going to care because he doesn't feel safe too.
Yeah. I think men are very big on investment.
Yeah.
You know?
They fall in love through investment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, or even just friendship, right? And I think that is one of the more difficult things for women, because especially the good guys tend to move a little slower.
Yeah.
Right?
Which I love.
They're not going to be the ones like love bombing you on the first date, right? And so I think that that's something that, especially within the context of, you know, the dating apps or meeting people in that sort of way, right? Where you're maybe texting first or you're messaging first before you even see each other in person. I think women have to understand that men are really big on investment. Right? Like, they're only going to invest in things that have good ROI.
Yeah, a good return.
Right?
But so do I.
And so do we. And that's the thing, is I think that is also one of the distinguishing qualities of a high quality woman, right? And even a boss babe. Like our boss babes know that, right? ROI is a real thing. So I think if you can approach dating in the same way, where it's like, okay, I'm not gonna put all my eggs in one basket, right? I'm not gonna plan the rest of my future with this man that I've had 2 messages with on Hinge, right? Before even meeting him in person. I think that that's a really great way to approach it and to understand how men really approach it too, you know, because it's not until they really have that investment that they form that attachment. So even in the case of your guy friends, right? It's like, it's not that they're being dicks when they first meet you and they're like, oh, she's a nice girl, but then they get to know you, they have that emotional attachment. So if someone says something about you, they're like, how dare you? Right? Because they've invested time, energy, love, right? Even platonic love into that relationship.
And like seeing all the layers of who you are. And that's something with men too, is like they categorize you right away. Like this is human nature, but men are like, oh, kind of like putting you like, this is just kind of a hookup situation. This is maybe wifey. You know, they're like doing that. And when you show them different layers of you, like I am boss babe and I'm hot and I'm an aunt and I really care like about my niece and nephew, and showing it's like, oh, she's so multifaceted. That's how they care, is when they see that you have so many layers, not just this one thing. And I think that we contort ourselves because we are wired to please as women, where we're trying to be like the hottest, most attractive and focusing on that and not showing like, yeah, but I'm also really freaking smart. And also let's talk about the laws of the universe. Like what are the other things about me? Like spiritually, where do we connect? Mentally, emotionally, physically, like not just the physical. And so that's important too with, I think women either lead with the boss babe, then they're in masculine, or they lead with like good girl, delicate fairy. And then like you said, are hunting outside of the date. Because that's what happens when we have those chemicals, like when chemistry starts happening, testosterone, epinephrine, all those things are happening. And you're like in hunter as a woman, you're in masculine. And because that hunter is single focused. So what you need to do, and what you were kind of touching on, is like, for me, I think it's always best date multiple people until you're locked down. Until you're locked down, because in that way you're not in hunter on the one prey.
Have fun.
You come back out and you're able to be in your feminine instead of the masculine hunter, the single focus. You zoom out, bigger picture. Oh, there's multiple options. That makes you so incredibly magnetic.
Yeah, but this is one of those places where men and women are really, really different. And I was talking to my male client about this yesterday, and he was like, I agree with you, but I hate this, but I agree with you. And it's that he can't be dating multiple women at the same time, because if his focus is all over the place, then he's never going to have the sole focus. And women are more receptive beings. Like we keep our energy open. We're not saying sleep with everybody, like definitely don't, unless that's an open conversation you're having and that's the world you're in. But it's getting to know people while the men are courting you and showing you who the strongest one is. And I think men get really upset about that, but it is kind of the natural order, because when we are sole focused on you and you just met us, you will instantly be less attracted to us anyway. So there are things that like emotionally we don't like, but it just is. Like there are just things that just are this way, and there's a reason why we've promenaded and courted and multiple men were, you know, taking an audience with a woman, and it's because we get the choice on who the strongest person is for us to have a family with, to procreate with, who's going to actually take care of us in our weakest possible state. So we're open to multiple men coming in and showing us, hey, I can be the best at this. Men who get in their ego and they're like, oh, she's entertaining other guys. My advice to that guy is, but be the right guy for her if you're interested, and she'll say yes to you.
And
she'll
win.
Because we want to be soul focused. We don't want to be entertaining multiple men. I know this with my clients. When I introduce that rotational dating to them, they're like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, but you don't like anybody. You don't actually like anybody. So why are you closing your options down? Men don't close their options down until they tell you that they do, you know? And so we're in this weird, delicate place where we want the soul focus. We are so deeply distracted by so many different people, and that's tough. But there are things that just they're just the way that they are. And if men can understand, like, no, my job is to win her over, they're going to be so much more in love with her, because they're going to feel that sense of value and achievement too.
And I think women get to just see, you know,
Witness.
They get to witness.
Mm-hmm.
You get to be.
You get to
Yeah,
be.
you don't have to plan everything.
Women have the
Yeah.
easiest job. You just get to be. You just get to be. And the man who is into you is going to be into that existence.
Yes.
100%. Yeah, just
And
be
invest
open.
in that existence,
Yep.
and getting the pleasure and the opportunity to spend time with you, right? Like, again, like, even with the investment thing, you're the investment. Like, he's investing in you, babe. So, you know, I always feel like we take dating so seriously nowadays. Maybe it's my Venus and Aries. That it's just like, bring back fun.
It's supposed to be fun and
It's
playful.
supposed to be fun and playful.
Like, what
Like,
do you
falling
mean?
in love is supposed to be fun. Like, what
Yeah.
the fuck? So I think, like, even when it comes to, you know, entertaining multiple men, right? It's like, it reminds me of The Bachelor. She's like, she's entertaining men, right? But it's like, yeah, when it comes to, you know, quote unquote, entertaining multiple men, it's like, babe, you're just in the stages where you're finding out who he is, you know, what his character is, what his relationship with his family is.
It takes time.
It takes time. So have fun with it, play with it, just be your amazing, authentic self, you know, keep seeing what he's offering and then evaluate from there.
And I tell my clients too, like, you do not deserve to be rushed. You deserve to be
Yes.
savored. Like, you are not like McDonald's
Yes.
drive-through.
No.
You get to be savored.
You're
and
the whole damn meal.
the whole damn meal. And so
Yeah.
when you find the man who is that match, he probably will be kind of moving faster too once he gets to the caring, once you get to that spot. And sometimes at that point for the woman, it can kind of be like, wait a minute. Wait, like, because it's a lot. When that man, the masculine man comes and he's like, I want you, let's do this. You're like, oh, I thought I wanted this whole time. Now this is a lot. Like, that masculine energy is a lot, and you get to receive it, but you also get to tell the man, like, hey, I just am taking my spaciousness, my time. Like, this is our love story, and we don't need to rush it. We get to enjoy it and, like, have fun with it. It doesn't have to be that race to the altar or whatever that is for you.
Especially if you're going to get married and spend the rest of your lives with each other, possibly have, like, joint bank accounts and children.
Not the joint bank account.
Like, you're locked in. My Capricorn 7th house. I'm going to be sharing my money with him and vice versa. No, but it is, again, going back to the investment piece. Like, you know, it's like that takes time. We don't need to rush it. I feel like it's a very American thing too, to do, like, engagements really quickly. And again, because before that was an economic thing, right? Versus, like, places like Europe, some places they take a long time. You date for 6, 7, even 10 years before getting engaged.
Which
And
I don't
that's
like.
normal.
Which I don't like.
Yeah.
There's my little other opinion coming in, because
Yeah.
I also think that women have the tendency to stick around with someone who isn't going to marry them. And men have
This
the
is true,
tendency to stick
too.
around and just enjoy the companionship with no intention of marrying her.
Yeah.
So I'm much more of a proponent of, like, go slow to move fast, because a lot of us are being test driven and having our time wasted by men who in 8 years, 10 years, and this is a lot of women experiences, and suddenly they're 36, they're 40, they're 42, and they're like, I wanted a family. And you just sat here this whole time and you just kept telling me you were going to do it, and you didn't. And that kind of brings me back into calling men forward, because they don't get to waste our time. They get to be called forward of, like, if you're not going to marry me, please tell me, so that I'm not sitting here wasting my years when I want to become a mother. And it does matter. And it happened to me too, where I met somebody at 28 and he was like, I'm going to marry you. I'm going to marry you. And then by the time I was 32, 31, 30, I don't even know, 31, he was like, oh, I was never going to marry you. And he was younger than me, so it didn't matter to him. But me being spit back out into the dating world into my 30s with a whole new set of heartbreak, it did set me behind 2 more years to where I'm like, well, now I don't know if I want to become a mother, because the older I get, there's more risk. So I was being test driven for 2 years by somebody who had a convenient home to sleep in, sex, and meals waiting for him, right? So I'm actually not a fan of waiting 10 years while dating someone who may or may not ever marry you.
Yeah, I think the difference is like, in Europe, there's, like, that really clear intention. It's almost like you're pre-engaged that entire time. Like, it's kind of a known thing that it's not like again, I think that this is why it's different in America, right? It's like the convenience. It's just like
convenient
the quickness.
culture.
Exactly. So I think, like, to your point, that's really smart. I know for myself, I would be absolutely terrified to marry someone after knowing them for maybe 2 years.
Right.
You know? So I think this is, again, where, like, we get to feel out within the parameters, right? Within the standards. We get to feel out in our own individual relationships what that looks like in terms of our speed and our timing. Because some people, whether it is just their natural inclination or it's their past, like you, it's like it's going to feel safer this way, versus other people it's going to feel like, you know, we could never get married and I would be okay with that.
Yeah,
as
that's
long
your
as we're
intention.
partners, you know?
Some people don't want marriage. Some people don't want
it.
families.
Yeah.
So that's why I always say, like, know the rules and then know how to break them.
Exactly.
That way you have the foundation set of, like, no, I'm savvy, I'm smart here, I know what I'm looking for, and I know how to ask for it. That's why women who are with a man for, say, 3 years and there's no ring yet, she gets to ask him instead of sitting there and being docile and not being sure how to ask. She gets to call him forward and say, are you ever going to marry me?
Yeah.
And what does that timeline look like? Mine looks like this. Are we on the same page?
Yeah, exactly.
And that is calling men forward. Or look, I'm really enjoying what we're doing here, but I'm not going to commit or just, you know, close my options until I know that you're all in with me, because I'm not willing to be test driven. That is calling men forward, because it's not always their instinct to, you know, commit very quickly. But if you have certain parameters for your life, you get to ask for that. You get to be empowered to appropriately and kindly make that known and call men forward too, because I don't think men know how much better their life can be committed to a wonderful woman.
Oh yeah.
A lot of men run from commitment, and a lot of men run from intimacy. And some of the most successful men, the millionaires and the billionaires out there, they have a great woman by their side who expanded them. So there's just so many beautiful, juicy levels and layers to this conversation that society as a whole, they're not paying attention to.
Yeah, and men are inspired by women, literally, just like you were saying, just by being there, like being in their presence. They are so inspired, whether they consciously know that. Yeah, we are magic. No, but it's like actually biologically the case. And so that's why they love being in our presence, and that's why it's important when you're dating to be clear. And it's like, if they're gonna run, like fucking run, like put your track shoes on, let's go.
And you don't want that person as a partner anyway.
Yes, of course.
Right?
Thank you for showing
the man
me.
who accepts, like, thank you so much for telling me what your desires are, what your timeline is. We're co-creating this together. Let's have a conversation about that.
Because I think that really is the case, that people just aren't clear about it. Like, I am dating to marry, and it might be you, it might not, but we're going to figure that out. Yeah, and that's okay. But a lot of men might go, oh, I just really like being around you. And then you have to go, sorry, you're really amazing, but this isn't it. And like, be so prepared to do that. And I think a lot of women don't do that because they think that there's not a lot of options. All the good ones are taken. It's just not true. And if you believe that, it's a belief and it's reflected back to you in your world, start showing yourself how you have so many options, down to when you go to a restaurant, look at the fucking menu and point out, I have so many options today for my lunch. This is, I'm not even joking, this will start reprogramming your entire manifestation field, where you start seeing so many options. Like, look in my closet, look how much stuff I have to wear. Look at all these opportunities. If I wanted to quit my job, there's a whole job board, and then the whole internet, I have more and more and more. Like, literally every day, the small things, pointing it out, and you will see that you have so many options. Point out, like, your friends, like you might have single friends, you might have friends. I have friends, like, I know people too from college that did get married, like right out of college or whatever. They're now getting divorced. So like, these men that are great men are now back on the market. Like, it happens every day. So if that's a belief you hold, change it.
100%.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for this beautiful episode. Is there anything that you...
Are we already done with this one?
Well, is there anything you want to button it up
We
with?
like love this topic.
I know. It's
I'm like, what
Are we
happened?
going for another
Were we in
3 hours?
Are we in a time warp? One thing I do want to say is, because I had a client ask me, the work we did together made her so incredibly magnetic that now she's getting so many compliments. Men are flirting with her everywhere. She's like, wait, what's going on? This wasn't happening before. And I obviously know what I told her, but I would love to get your guys' input, where she was like, okay, now I'm so magnetic. However, I'm not getting the men that are taking action to ask me out. Like, how do you call men forward in that way to take actions past the flirtation, the like, you're so beautiful, staring at you everywhere? How do you get people to actually make the move?
In person or online?
In person. It's literally happening everywhere. She's like going into the store, the gym, everything. Yeah.
So whatever question is asked, she can say, I'm happy to tell you more about that when you take me to dinner.
Oh, love that.
I'm happy to tell you more about that over coffee. Would you like my number? You know, and it's not her going, here's my number. She's actually, she's dropping the handkerchief. She's opening the door for him to walk through, which is different than us leading the relationship forward. Rather, when we open the door for them to walk through, men will happily walk through it as long as they know they're safe to walk through it. So again, it's like, oh my gosh, and you're so beautiful and da-da-da. And, well, I would love to tell you more about myself, but I can only do that if you take me to dinner.
And what I would say too is like, if they're not safe because they're not taking that action of what's your number, etc., look at, okay, am I making him safe? And truly, when men are asked like, what would make you feel safe enough to make that move, it's her smiling at me. Smiling at me, literally just smiling, because we feel vulnerable, like we don't know where it's going to go. But if you just open, like your body language is open, smiling, that's
energy
truly
is open.
Oh yeah,
that's truly 100%. Enough. Yeah. And what would you say?
I'm trying to think of what I do.
What do I do?
What do I do?
Exist.
Just be.
Yeah, but I think it is in that beingness. I think it's in the openness. You know, I once got asked out in a Target. Like after Pilates, I had like the messiest hair ever. Very nice guy too, very accomplished. Like for such a young age, he thought I was 23.
Oh.
I was like, I'm 30. He was 26.
Because the men are at home and they're at Target.
They're at Target.
Check
Check your Target dollar
your local
section
Target
for quality men. You're welcome, Target. No, but I remember in that moment, because I had been going through a phase where men were coming up to me all the time, which is nothing new. That's always happened. But they weren't asking me out. And I didn't really care if they did, TBH, because I wasn't interested in anybody that did. But I just thought it was interesting. And, you know, I was like, oh, I thought men just like really liked to talk about the cheese and the avocados. But apparently, and the candles, right? But apparently not. No, apparently probably they were flirting. So on that specific day, I was like, you know what? If a man approaches me, because they tend to love to approach me after Pilates, when I'm in my little Pilates fit, I was like, if a man approaches me, I'm just going to be open. I'm just going to be open and receptive and see what he's got. And this guy continued the conversation past, you know, the dollar section, and actually asked me out and asked for my number and was very intentional about the whole thing. He like wanted to get on a call the next day. And again, for me, I'm like, slow down there, Sparky. I was like, take me to dinner first. But I think it was that openness. I think it was that curiosity, right? The curiouser and curiouser, where you as the woman have the easiest job ever. You get to just like sit back, relax, be yourself, pay attention to what he's bringing you and be open to that, and then discern within yourself, is that an opportunity I want to say yes to or not?
It's so funny. And I think like reciprocity. I think that's part of the open energy is he has said hello. You've said hello back. He's asked you a question. You've responded and not walked away.
Now put your AirPods back in.
Yeah, like, oh, what'd you say? Thanks. And then, you know, like you're actually like, oh, you're engaging with him. I think that is a green flag, green go for men too. But I did want to touch on something really quick that you kind of just mentioned. And that is women have, like, our job is easy. It's the easiest job. And here's what I would say is, particularly for boss babes and ambitious women, it's actually really, really hard to not be in control. So this whole, like, it's so easy for us to lean back and let the men do the things. Not really for the women that we're talking to here, and definitely not for my clients. They're incredibly frustrated that these guys aren't taking action. They're incredibly frustrated that they can't just go up to him and say, like, I want you. Do you want me? You're good looking. Let's go. Like, let's date. I want this. I'm just going to ask him out. They want to be like that. So, you know, for those women as well, I'd love to hear what you guys would say, but it's a practice. Like, it's not that it's the easiest thing in the world to just lean back and receive until it is. But the more you practice
I think
it.
When I say easy, I mean like natural.
Yeah,
because I think it's more of a learned thing, that it's like, oh, like I'm so great at organizing things within my business. Obviously, if I apply those same skills here, that will work out. Right? But I think dating and relationships, especially for boss women, right, can be that sort of different area of life. And I think just the kind of women who are driven to be the sort of boss babe in general are going to lean towards that kind of more rigid nature anyways. And to be H, like, the thing is that a more rigid person kind of needs a little bit more of a sensitive person. So I love the conversation of calling these men forward, because the kind of men that they're interacting with probably do have that intention. They just lack the language or the skills to do so. But through the things that like you teach, right? I think that these kinds of women can really embody that and really, again, have the sort of practical set of tools for doing the calling forward, right?
Yeah, it's so great. It's so helpful.
Yeah.
And I think it really is, you can come up with these practices where you're like, okay, I'm wanting him to take action, take action. Is it because I'm in that like hunter? Like, am I in that masculine? Where can I not need anything from this interaction besides being here and being in my feminine? And like you can just picture you're like a fairy if you want. Like, I'm a feminine fairy. I just get to be here and enjoy this reaction or interaction for what it is. Like us connecting, us enjoying each other. I might never see this man again, and that's okay, not needing it, because then now you're in the feminine. Now he gets to be in his masculine. If you're forcing in the masculine, he's gonna push his mic into the feminine.
Forceful of you.
So forceful.
Yeah.
So that's what's gonna happen. So where it go, I need to pull back into my feminine. I can be a fairy, whatever that looks like to you, where you like imagine you're in glitter and sparkles and whatever works to get you from being boss babe. Like, maybe you just finish work and you're still in that go phase. Like, how can you transition into being that feminine fairy? And that's just your own embodiment practice to get back into that. And then you'd go, oh yeah, I don't need him to take any action. And that's why you might have a friend who's married or engaged or has a boyfriend that gets hit on all the time, because she doesn't need anything.
100%.
She's just being present, because she goes, I don't need you to ask for my number, obviously, because she's taken it a different way, but that's the energy.
Yeah. So beautiful. Yeah. And the last note that I will leave here is that men have to feel like relationships are their idea. So when it feels like it's all the woman's idea, he's not going to be as much in with you as he could be. So it's even more reason to lean back, allow, receive, witness, and let the men do what the men are going to do. Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you in the next episode.